Welcome to the Paperclip podcast presented by BSDA. We have one clear goal: help you to become bigger. I'm your host, Brett Stone, and this is season 2, episode 11. And thanks very much for tuning in. Definitely appreciate it, whether you're watching or listening. And today it is my pleasure to introduce Celebrant, Vocalist, MC, Veronica Lees-Amato. How are you?
Hey Brett, I am absolutely fantastic and just really stoked to be on your Paperclip podcast series. So thanks for inviting me.
Also difficult to say.
Yes, it is, but that's okay. It's worth listening to.
So tell us, what was your very first job and what do you think you learned from it?
So my very first job ever was babysitting when I was about 9 years old. And but I'm going to skip forward to, I guess, what would be called a real job, where someone I didn't know was paying me the right wages, and that was as a legal clerk. So I lived in Frankston. I was 15 and a half years old. So back in the day, you only had to be 15 and I think 3 months to get a job. I worked for a company in the city, in Collins Street, the city, as a legal clerk, and I used to answer the phones, do some admin duties. Really had no understanding of the responsibility that I had, and used to train it into work every day, and life was simple. Got paid. That was pretty exciting.
Do you remember what you made?
I remember money used to come in the yellow envelopes. So I'm touching 50, so we're talking, it was early 80s, and the money used to come in the yellow envelope and it would all be written on, so nothing was computerized back then. And I used to pull it out, and I think that there was just under $200 in there. But, you know, for someone 15 and a half years old, that was a lot of money. But one thing I distinctly remember was that it was $30 a week for my weekly train ticket. And that seemed like a whole lot of my wages. So I'm not sure what train tickets are now, and I don't think I'd ever take a train now, to be honest. I'm a bit of a snob when it comes to my travel. I like my own car, but I just remember having to pass over $30 every week to get a ticket for me to go on sometimes a blue rattler, and there'd be an apple flying through the window if you were lucky enough to dodge it on your way to work, and someone dribbling on your shoulder, or, you know. I used to pay for that weekly.
A wise investment, no doubt.
Yeah.
And so tell us more about what you do as a celebrant.
So, look, you say celebrant, but it is really only a small part of what I do for a living. So I am actually predominantly a singer, then an MC, and then a celebrant. As a celebrant, that was something I decided to do about 7 years ago. I started facilitating funerals and being a voice for family for funerals. A lot of people may not know that you don't need any formal qualifications to be a funeral celebrant. The funeral industry is unregulated, which is quite frightening in some ways, but the people involved in the industry are very beautiful people, so quite comforting in a lot of ways too. But as a wedding celebrant, I completed my Cert 4 in celebrancy about 3.5 years ago. And that was really because I am a bit of a learning vampire. I love knowledge, I love courses, and I love upskilling. I feel like I'm just constantly putting things in my toolbox. So after 30 odd years of performing and singing and being an MC and being a voice for people and connecting, I felt like I wanted to be a bigger part of those couples' journeys on the day of their wedding. So I decided to do that. And so for the last 3.5 years, I've been a certified wedding celebrant. At the moment, I'm not doing too much because anyone who's listening to this, it's April. Am I allowed to say that? It's April 2020, and we are in stage 3 restrictions. So the funeral industry is limited to 10 people at a service. So as a funeral celebrant, I'm doing everything remotely, just as I'm talking to you now. I'll work with the families. I'll write the eulogy as I normally would, but I'm actually narrating it now, which is something that's very new. which I'm enjoying doing, and then I'll go and I'll deliver the service to 10 people maximum. As a wedding celebrant, I've got couples that have decided to still go ahead with the wedding, and they'll come to my house, and there'll be myself and the couple and 2 witnesses, maximum of 5, and I'll marry them. And other couples have decided to postpone, sometimes 18 months, because they still want that whole official ceremony and celebration at the one time, and they don't want to compromise on who's there. So life is busy because I'm keeping myself busy, but most celebrants will be feeling the same thing, that it's a difficult time. It's a challenging time in business, and also just for yourself, because you've gone from being extremely busy to now having to create your own workload.
That's right. And as you mentioned, the industry itself, you don't particularly need a qualification, you don't need some sort of certificate, but how did you learn the skills required to be a celebrant?
So just to be clear, only for funerals as a celebrant, you don't need any qualifications. Wedding celebrants, you need the certification, and you actually need to be signed off by the Attorney General. That's a 6-month process, plus quite a large fee. That's not guaranteed you'll get it. So for all celebrants, wedding celebrants out there, it's a little bit harder. I think the best way for anyone, if anyone was thinking about being a funeral celebrant and they wanted to know the answer to that question, you have to have a natural ability to be able to talk to people. It's not an industry for someone who is anxious about public speaking. A lot of people will say you can do it with some, lots of practice, fake it till you make it, and all that kind of stuff. When you're talking about someone's life for the very last time with an audience, I would never risk it with someone who was practicing their public speaking skills. I would want to give that job to someone who didn't care what they looked like or what they sounded like. All they cared about is that message from that loved one to the people that were listening. So I would say to anyone, it's not about getting the skills to be a funeral celebrant. It's about feeling like you are confident enough in yourself to just make it all about somebody else. And if you can do that, you will be doing the most beautiful job for a family. And if you enjoy doing that, you will love being involved in the funeral industry. As a celebrant for weddings, it's a little bit different. There's a lot of verbatim statements that have to be said, and they don't change for any celebrant. You can read it and you can make it legal. And then you can work, colour in the lines with your couple, and they'll give you a lot of the information that you need. If you're a good writer, it'll be easier. I'm not a good creative writer. I write like I speak, but I'm very good at making something my own and making someone feel special. So I'll take what I'm good at and lend it to the process. But yeah, I don't think you just need to be really confident with yourself.
And what's the most unusual wedding that you've been a celebrant for?
Oh, look, I don't really have any really exciting stories like that. I know some celebrants talk about doing nude weddings or having to dress up as Batman, or I don't have any stories like that. I just get all the really beautiful couples that just want to get married. I guess the really interesting things for me happen when things don't go to plan. And that's where my skill set really steps up, because as a freelance vocalist for many, many years, my job was to walk in when a singer was sick, or they double booked, or something wasn't going right and everything needed to be pulled back in very quickly. So I'm really good on my feet, and I'm very good when things are turning to custard, and you just need someone to go in and make it okay. So I guess the best weddings for me are the ones that don't go to plan, where I can just go in there and say, it's okay, everything's going to be okay, now let's try this. But what does come to mind is a funeral where a fight broke out in the middle of the chapel, and the funeral directors were outside, which is probably where they shouldn't have been. But the fight broke out, and I just walked straight down off the lectern, and I walked down into the middle of everybody, and one side was a bikie family and the other side, well, I don't know. And I just stood in the middle. I went, right, who is here to remember, and I named the deceased, and they all just went quiet. I said, great, take your seat, let that lady walk out because she's just expressing herself the way she needs to right now. And when I say that lady, that was a lady that was who was on a walker who was expletive after expletive after expletive, which is about 108 years old. It took her forever to walk out the chapel. She made quite an exit. And I said, okay, now let's get back to why we're here today. And then it was all good. So I love doing stuff like that because for me, I feel like I've done that for the deceased. And if things don't go right for the bride and groom, I get in there and I fix it. And I feel like that's they wouldn't have known that they needed me until they needed me. But that's why I was the best fit for the day.
Absolutely. It does sound like the perfect, having known you for a long time, it does sound like the perfect gig for you.
Yeah, well, we won't get into how long I've known you, Brett, because then we might have to get into some stories that you won't want on this podcast.
Oh.
All good stories.
So let's hear about, so obviously during your working career, and obviously, you've worked either like on your own at the moment as a celebrant or as part of a group. What are some of the differences that you find between kind of going it alone, especially at the moment?
Two words come to mind straight away. One is control and one is support. So when you work on your own, you've got full control of the process. And if you're someone who's a controlling person, which I can be very much like that, as you know, you've known me for a long time too, it can work very, very well. But the second word, support, I think is equally as important because that's what you have when you work with others. And I think that is a really good reason to be a team player. And if you're working with the right people, you can still control your own contribution. And if you bring trust into that, you then have the support of a whole team of people that you're all doing a really good job together. And there are some things I prefer to do on my own. Funerals are something that I prefer to do on my own because I'm the voice for the family. I'm coordinating between all the parties, but I'm the person that people see. And I really want everyone to understand how important that loved one was. Whether there's one person there or 1,000 people there, it doesn't matter. I need your attention and I need you to understand what a privilege it is for you to be here the final time that we talk about this person's life. For weddings, I love the idea of knowing that there's a team because it's a party. It's not about me having all your attention to just give you a message. It's about a whole bunch of different people all working towards the same goal. So control and support, you can find the balance. I think you can work on your own or with a group, but you do need those two things and you need to be versatile in between two. I don't think any business works on their own all the time or with someone all the time.
Absolutely. And a very consistent message through or from, almost every guest on the podcast has been the support they get from other people around them. And I've got a specific question around that I'll get to in a minute as well. But what made you want to work for yourself? It's obviously been a long time that you've been an entertainer, especially. What made you want to do that?
I don't know if I do work by myself. I mean, what does that mean? Well, now I'm asking you the questions and you're doing the interview. Just as you've said that, I don't think I've ever really felt like I do work for myself because no matter what I do, there's always other people that need to be involved in the process. And I think that's probably what makes me someone that people like to work with because I just understand. I open all the doors up. I don't put any barriers in front of people. I can be difficult to work with if I feel like something's not, if I don't understand something, and if I'm working with someone who doesn't understand communication acuity and they're just trying to talk to me in their language and they're not listening to the fact that I can't understand them, I find that very difficult. I need all the details. I'm literal, break it down and tell me exactly what you want from me and then everything will be fine. So communication is really important. But I don't think there's anything that I actually do on my own, except maybe, you know, write the eulogies, have the conversations with the families. Once I've done my bit, I rely on a whole team of people, whatever I'm doing, because it's a function, it's an event. The time I feel most alone is when I'm doing my bookkeeping, because I'm sure a lot of business owners feel like that. You either do it well or you have to give it to someone else to do it. That's not my forte. I don't want to sit there and do my books. I want to do the other stuff. I want to talk about people. I want to connect with people. But I don't know if I do work on my own.
No,
I do work for myself.
Yeah, well, that's certainly true. But I think that's a great answer to that question, especially considering what you do. I think, you know, it's true. You are always surrounded by people, and I think the only time that's not the case is like what you said. You know, when you do have those little things that you need to do yourself. But you know, even when you think about business in general, we're always surrounded by, especially being part of a B&I group like we are, that we're always surrounded by other business owners. They're always, you know, a message away, a phone call away. It's rare that any of us ever really get stuck at any point. But when you think about your early days, especially when you were first, I guess, becoming a celebrant, what were some of the things that you did to be able to take it from just an idea that, oh, you know, I might do this or I'd like to do this, to it becoming a business? What were some of the things? Was it like planning? Was it talking to other people? How did that come about?
So you know me, I'm a dog on a bone. If something comes out of my mouth, it's already done. And it puts my husband into fits of terror. All the planning happens with me in my head. So the moment that I decided I wanted to be a celebrant, I rang another celebrant. I was actually doing work in the funeral industry at the time. And I was arranging a funeral, and I saw the family, and I just thought, I just want to get up there and tell them. As a celebrant, I sit with the family and I find out all about this loved one, and then I recommend a celebrant to them that I feel is going to be the right fit. And while I was sitting there, I just thought, oh, I just so badly want to get up and tell this person's story. So anyway, weeks passed. In my brain, I'd already decided that's what I was going to do. And I rang another celebrant that I really respected, who was what I perceived as really successful. And when I say that, I mean, when you don't know an industry, and I didn't really know what it took to be a celebrant, I saw someone who was doing a lot of work and I thought they must be successful. So I contacted the celebrant and I said, look, with the generous assumption that she would want to help me out, right? Because I had no reason to think that no one would want to help out another sister, right? So I rang and I said, look, I just want to know, I really want to do this. And you know my background, I've performed for a long time. I really feel like I could do this. And she said to me straight up, are you a creative writer? I said, no, I'm not. She said, well, are you any good at writing? I said, I don't think so. It's not something I would excel at. She said, well, don't do it. She said, because you're going to deal with families. They're going to be expecting a professionally written eulogy. And it's not going to be easy, and you know, blah, blah, blah. And she put me off the idea straight away. So 3 years later, so I've said, okay, that's fine. The idea is still there. I've respected this person. And one of the very few times in my life, I've actually taken that and I've let it sit in my brain. Normally I'd go, okay, yep, great, and let me go and ask a second opinion. But I didn't. It clearly didn't suit me to go and run after it. I had enough work doing other stuff. Then I came across another funeral director one day, and I'm just singing in a church for another family, and I told them the story, and they said to me, are you joking? You should definitely be up there. We have lots of families that don't want a professionally written eulogy. They just want someone who's going to talk about it from the heart. And that's when I came home, and I think this is the advice I would give anybody when it comes to your marketing, if you want to bring something to life. You have to leverage the relationships that you have. Never, ever burn a bridge, ever. Go through your business life and your personal life building them. Because I was able to come home, I was able to make 10 phone calls to 10 different funeral directors and say, look, by the way, I'm Veronica, I'm the one who sings at the church. I know, I just want to let you know that I'm actually a celebrant now and I'd like to be a voice for families. I'd like to be able to send you an email. Would that be okay? Yep, no worries. And the going rate for funerals at the time was $550 for a celebrant. And I said to all of them, I'm prepared to do the first 10 funerals for $350 because I wanted to be able to build my rapport and trust with them. I got 2 funerals in the first week and they wanted to pay me my full fee because they didn't understand why I would discount my fee. They already trusted me. They knew I could do this, even though I didn't, because I didn't know what was involved. So once I decided it and I got some bad feedback, I thought, well, that's okay, I'll just let you sit for a minute. But in my brain, I already decided at some point I was going to do it. I just waited 3 years until someone else said to me, get back onto that idea and then just do it. So I did that. And then 3.5 years later, I decided that I wanted to do the weddings. I rang up a celebrant who was running the course. She couldn't fit me in that weekend. I rang another celebrant and I did the course that weekend. I did it in 6 months. It should have taken me 18, but I'm like a dog on a bone. I'll get it done as soon as I can. And then put the application in, biting my fingernails, waiting for the AG to say yes, because I'd paid $600 and wasn't sure if I'd actually get in. And when I got that certificate, it was the same thing again. I rang every wedding venue that I work at and said, guess what? I can not only sing for the weddings now, I can actually take these couples through the whole process. So, yeah.
And do you think that that existing relationship that you had with those venues was kind of instrumental in you being able to keep things moving forward, being able to have those opportunities to be a celebrant straight away?
Without a doubt. Without a doubt. If you have, and that has been my one biggest, Jack and the Beanstalk, how he plants the seeds. That is my Jack and the Beanstalk story. Plant seeds all the time, good seeds. Don't expect anything in return. Just make somebody feel good. And anything I do, whether it's the funerals, whether it's singing, whether it's just even having a conversation with you, I'm thinking about who's listening to this podcast that might feel better after listening to this podcast. Because you and I both know, and we talked about it before we came on, there's so much going on in the world. It would be so easy for you and I to get caught up in a conversation about how things are different, how things are challenging, how they're hard, how we heard about a guy who's lost his job. But you've got to make that decision straight away not to have that conversation, because everything you say and put out in the world is going to have an effect on how someone feels. And my beans that I've planted and nurtured my whole life have been about, how can you remember me for someone that made you feel good? How can you remember me as someone that you want to speak to again because you just like being around me? You like being around me. It doesn't matter what I'm selling or what I'm doing. You're going to help me out.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's terrific advice for anybody that's listening to the podcast at the moment, especially people that are perhaps only looking at starting their very first business. That's the always leverage the relationships you have and never burn bridges. That was great advice that you gave before, and I think it's really important early on.
It's important too that it's not a strategic approach. If you're someone who this doesn't feel comfortable to do that, don't do that. Because the last thing you want is people speaking to you, using language that's not natural for them, looking like tryhards or wankers. And what that comes across as is there's something not quite right. I'm not going to trust something if something's not quite right. So, you will either love me or hate me. And you've known me for a long time, right? I can easily rub someone up the wrong way. It's just, I'm super honest. and it's not always the way people want to hear things, but I can almost guarantee you that if someone wanted to hear truth, they would come and talk to me. They may not like what they hear, but they know that it would always be truth from me. So I think the best way for you to do whatever you need to do to nurture your business and leverage from relationships is leverage from relationships that are authentic, that you know that they know you. They don't know something you're trying to create or make it look like it's something it's not. It needs to be authentic, and you need to be yourself, because if you can't, you're not going to be able to stand up and talk about anyone or to anyone naturally, confidently, because you're always going to be thinking about, oh, what language do I need to use? What do they need to hear? What do I need to look like? It's exhausting. And all that energy that you're putting into worrying about what someone else is looking at, you're not taking that opportunity to possibly make them feel better about themselves. And sometimes all that is just giving someone your attention. Costs nothing. Best marketing strategy in the world. Give someone all your attention, even if they bore you to tears. Have a rest. Let them talk. Let them get it all out. Have a breath. Have a cup of tea with them, and then leave and sleep well at night going, something? That was the most boring half an hour I've ever had in my life. But that person's going to feel really good that they just were able to talk about that and get it off their chest. And it's really important. It can't be something you're not with relationships.
Absolutely. And I think one of the things that's very clear why you're speaking is your passion. And
I'm so passionate.
So what excites you about being a celebrant?
So what was that?
What excites you about being a celebrant?
What excites me about being a celebrant? I'm always honest. It's not the celebrancy that excites me. It's someone coming to me to make them feel important. That excites me. You calling me to do this interview, you inviting me to do this interview, that excited me. I couldn't have cared less if I was talking about having to homeschool the kids. The fact that you thought I was interesting enough to actually have a conversation with and share it with your listening audience, that excites me. If you want me to stand up in front of your closest family and friends and talk about your loved one, that excites me. You want me to get up and sing a song because it's going to make people feel good and happy, that excites me. You want me to cook your dinner? That'll excite me. I actually, it won't matter what I do. I love the idea of being important, and I think that's something that's come obviously from my childhood. Let's talk about my childhood. Okay. No, let's not really. I think when I grew up, I had all these feelings of not feeling important enough. And, everyone's got the thing that they had in their childhood, that one limiting belief. And that for me was the launch pad for everything I do in my life. If I can make people feel important and understand how important their life is, then that makes me feel important. So all of a sudden it's a win for me, it's a win for everybody else. So it doesn't matter what I do. And all of it, being a celebrant, it's good money. People think that I'm important. I get to do something really important. I get to make you feel important. Happy days. But it wouldn't really matter if it was that or something else.
And I think that's a lot of that is to do with your outlook on it. And I think that's...
yeah, everything is your outlook on it.
That's a very important part of having a business, not just having a business about anything really, but obviously, we're talking about business. So, but I do think that how you view what you do and how that helps other people is really important.
Yeah. And look, there's part of me too that I'm driven by completion. I love things that are quick, where I get to the end and I see a result very quickly. So I'm never going to be at my best when I'm in a scenario that takes For example, if you put me in an organisation where you said to me, right, this is a project with this client, it's going to be a 12.5-month test and measure, and we're just going to move along, you know, slowly but surely, and I want to give me a lot of reports. I am going to be all-fessed. You'll find me like Joe Costanza under the desk, right, doing something. But you give me high pressure, put me with a family where I have to do a really important job and give me 2 days to do it and I have to bring everything together. I am going to be sweating, but I'm going to feel so alive and you're going to get the best out of me. So I know what I'm good at. I know what lights me up, and I know that I'm going to do a great job, but I will never put myself in a situation where I'm going to be operating on 3 cylinders.
So the most exciting proposition for you at the moment would be that couple that comes to you and says, we want to get married tomorrow. And we need
no, because they can't get married. They need 1 month and 1 day. No. But yeah, stuff like that. Like the couple that, you know, well, I did have that couple just before the lockdowns happened. You know, we had a 200 people wedding in a big, beautiful venue on the Saturday, and on the Wednesday prior, they were told they could only have 100. Then the venue cancelled because, you know, it was just getting worse and worse. And, you know, that was those kind of situations I'm the best at. I'm the person that's, everything's going to be okay. Because as long as we look out for each other, as long as we get it done, trust me, because I'm an expert in what I do, and what I don't know, I've got 8 other experts around me that I know we're all on the same page. We're going to get you there. Lift you up, get you there. No, I'm not worried about selling you something that I don't believe in. I just want you to trust me. Just trust me, and everything will be okay. And by the way, if you pay me for that too, that's a bonus.
And so,
I don't like the bonus.
So I think you've touched on like an important point as part of all that, which is, you know, you really thrive in those challenging environments, those challenging situations. So
Yeah.
On that point, what was a personal challenge that you found personally while working for yourself? And, you know, we've had all kinds of things where it could be, you know, relationships have suffered or friendships have broken up, you know, where people have been friends for 20 or 30 years, and because they didn't support the other person's business, well, they just stopped being friends. People not sleeping, people running out of money, all kinds of different things. Is there something that you feel comfortable sharing in your own journey?
Well, you know, I'm comfortable sharing anything, and I think if you speak to anyone, any person who's going to sit here in front of you, in front of anyone, and say, oh, I haven't really had any, if their lips are moving, they're lying. Because everyone has challenges. We are human. I could talk to you about my divorce. I could talk to you about losing a daughter after 6.5 weeks. It was very prim. I could talk to you about building a dream home and then having to sell it because we couldn't afford the mortgage. I could talk to you about multiple businesses that I've had that have failed. I could talk to you about dealing with mental illness. There's a lot of things that I could talk about that really, what's the point of it unless there was some message in it, right? And I think for the purpose of the podcast, what I would talk to you about right now is I've been in business for 15 years with 2 of my closest friends. One, my husband, and one, a man that I'm in love with as a brother. 2 people that I trust my life with. And just imagine for a second, anyone who's listening, having a product or service that you knew was the Qantas of product and services. Anything that would go wrong, you could guarantee it would be fixed. They had your back, they turned up, they were reliable, they consistently did an awesome job. Didn't matter if one of them was half dying, the 3 of us would turn up and consistently over promise and over deliver. That's what we had. And as of yesterday, I put a notice out saying that the band was actually finishing up, wasn't going to be anymore. And for the purpose of the podcast, I think it's important that I talk about that, because certainty in life for a human being is one of the number one needs, human needs. People need to, they get safety and certainty and security, right? All those other things that I talked to you about, they rocked me, because things that I thought were for sure weren't, and you deal with them. They're all personal issues. But in business, when something, I woke up the morning after we made the decision to finish the band, which was a few days ago, and the next morning I woke up thinking, I don't have that certainty anymore that I can take a booking for the band and deliver, because I no longer have those 3 people working together all the time on the same journey, wanting the same output, to get the same result consistently every time. And then it occurred to me that what's exciting about that is that I was part of that certainty. What I brought to that, I can duplicate and take to something else. And it was a decision that we all made. It wasn't something that was, thrust upon me, so I wasn't ready for it. It's a very difficult decision to end something, but COVID-19 has given us 6 to 9 months of no bookings. And no doubt we'll be smashed on the other side of it, but there's no certainty in that, because we don't know when the bookings are going to come back. All of our hospitality partners that supported us for 30 years, supported me for 35 years and the band for 15 years, we need to help them now. We can't be relying on them to give us an income. We don't know when they're coming back. They don't know. So all this uncertainty that's going on, and what have I got? I've got me. And what can I be absolutely sure about? Me. The relationships that I've got, the intention that I've got, the beans that I've planted, the respect that I've got from people in the industry, the reputation that I've left behind, the bridges that I've built, the people that I can always turn to, the support networks, all of these things, technology. I may not have that, but if I can trust myself and understand what I brought to that business, I actually don't have anything to worry about. I just need to find now, what else am I going to lend myself to that I can introduce to people again? And I think that is probably what I want to share with everyone in terms of challenges, that you've got to take out from those challenges what you can be certain about. Because if you focus on the uncertainty, you are going to crawl into a fetal position. And that outlook and that attitude is not going to do you or your business or your future in business any justice.
Absolutely. And so you actually provide a really good segue to the next question, which, is really about that. It's about not just crawling into the fetal position and staying there. I'd love to understand something that you do for your own self-care.
Well, this is green tea. Normally it wouldn't be. And it cares for me a lot. Self-care. It's an interesting one, isn't it? I hear people, and I actually listened to your last podcast, and I think if my mind is right, everything's okay. The moment, and I'm going to give you a very crass analogy. Can I do that?
Please.
Can I do a crass analogy? Because I do live in Frankston. It's a beautiful place to live, by the way, but sometimes we can say it as it is down these parts. When you step in dog shit, you don't keep it on your shoe, walk it through the house, take it off, give it to your partner, ask them to have a smell of it, rub it on their shoe, and both of you walk around the carpet and get in the car and drive around. You don't put a picture of it on Facebook. And that's what a lot of people tend to do in life. They will have a shitty situation, and instead of just taking off their shoe, rinsing it under the tap or throwing it in the bin, or maybe even just putting it outside and putting on a new pair of shoes, they won't. They need to look at it, they need to analyse it, they need to show it to 10 other people, and misery loves company, so they need to talk to a whole bunch of other people about stuff, and they need to Google it, and then they need to talk to 8 people about what they should do about their boyfriend, and all of a sudden you end up with a shit fest about something that's really negative and it's poisoning your soul. More importantly, your mental health goes in the toilet. For me, my self-care is in always keeping my head right. Keep moving forward, focus on the things that work in my life, focus on the things that I've got control over, focus on the support that I have around me. And it's not always strategically thought about like that. Sometimes it's just about me going, shit, I'm a human being. At the moment, I feel like a human doing. I am going to go and pour myself a nice bottle of, no, not a bottle, maybe it'll be a bottle, but maybe a nice, we'll start with a glass. I'll go and pour myself a nice glass of red, and I will just sit back and I'll just put my feet up and watch 5 episodes of Brooklyn Nine-Nine. Maybe that'll do it for me. When everything happened with the lockdown, I said to Rob on the Monday, I said, tonight we're going to perform for an hour, we're going to do happy hour, we're going to live stream it. I don't care what it sounds like, what it looks like, but I need to let people know it's okay. Just chill out, order some takeaway, because if I can do something for someone, I feel like I've still got some purpose. If I've got purpose, my head's right. Wake up in the morning, have some purpose. And so anyway, we've been doing that. And 28 days later, 29 days tonight, we're still doing that. So self-care for me is making sure my head's right. If my head's right, everything else will fall into place. And I'm sure there's some eating better there too, but I haven't got around to that. It's on the to-do list.
And I think that's something on everybody's list at the moment, where I think we're all treating it a bit like being a bear at the moment, and just, you know, donating and ordering in and just preparing for winter.
I had a phone conversation with someone for about 45 minutes just prior to this interview, and I ate a whole chocolate Easter bunny. Now, I would not normally do that. I'm just feeling so relaxed.
Sounds like
drink to chill, eat what you want.
That's it. Just executing a bit of self-care there.
Nah, not really, no.
Self-abuse. So how important is it for you to be around other business owners?
You're very important. Just for the support network, for the advice. Sometimes, a lot of the time actually, I like knowing that I'm not alone. I like knowing I'm not the only one going through that. B&I is a little bit different, because not only is it a support network of other business owners, it's actually it's a network of people that pass me business based on trust. So tick, 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 all my values are being met there. You know, it's not a really good example is I was part of a Facebook group that was put together. And one of the solutions of the Facebook group during COVID-19 was, let's give everyone Google reviews. There's about 1,600 people on this Facebook group. How about everyone give someone in the group a Google review, and that person can reciprocate, and it'll boost our Google rankings. Now, based on that model, would you trust Google rankings? So, and I immediately put, look, sorry guys, there are some of you out there and I've used your services and happy to give you a glowing review based on, you know, the service that you provided, but the people I don't know, I'm not prepared to do that, because there's got to be a sense of integrity around everything that I do. And it was met, some people met that with, you know, glowing silence. Didn't have anything to say. Some people said, oh, you know, we understand, appreciate it, but I'm prepared to reciprocate with anyone who does it for me. B&I doesn't allow for that kind of thinking. The standards are high. So for me, I just feel like I get to be part of this group where everyone expects a lot of me. I get acknowledged for all the work that I do. I'm in a group of people that understand how good I am at something. They want to pass work to me and trust me with their clients. And I get to meet with them every week and whenever I need to, because they just want to be in contact with me and connected to me. Yeah, look, if anyone's listening and you can get into a BNI, definitely get into a BNI. And I know that probably wasn't the question, but that's something else I'm passionate about too.
No, it's true. It's I'd certainly support that thinking as well. Having been in one for a couple of years myself, I know the benefits of being there, and not most people would join one specifically looking for more business for themselves. And I think what you very quickly realise is that number one, it's about the other people in the room. It's not about your business. It's about serving other people, making sure their businesses are supported, and you can do something for them, bring them clients, give them tips or ideas or help, whatever it is. And the other thing that I think people realise very quickly is how resourceful being part of a BNI is. It's like having a toolkit. There's a different person in every industry in the room, and being able to make a phone call to somebody, hey, I'm just, not sure about this, or I don't know how to do that, or hey, my mum needs this, or my cousin needs this, or, just having those people that you can rely on because you see them every week, they act with integrity is a big deal. It's a big deal for other businesses.
And how important is it too, if we talk about certainty, to know that that's always there?
Yep, absolutely.
How many other places or networks are you involved in that it's only good if you pay your dues, or it's only good if you're doing one particular thing, because everyone's like seagulls. They want a piece of you. The one thing I love about BNI is I get up and I skip into these meetings because I'm met with enthusiasm, because it's me. Because they really appreciate me and the business that I do and the way I do business. And it's become a little bit of a measure for me. If you can't get into a BNI, I don't know if I'd want to do business with you. Because I know that there's standards and there's checkpoints. And I know and firsthand, right, because we've both been part of it, that you can't negate around certain things when you're in your own business. You have to do it. You have to set your own KPIs. You have to be accountable. And so if you find that difficult being accountable in an organisation, how are you going to run your own business?
Absolutely, because you have to be accountable to not just to other people, but you have to be accountable to yourself 12, 14, 16 hours a day.
Yeah. I actually, hats off to you, because I know that you work in a very isolated environment, and often you have to, because you need to have your own space and you need to have all your thoughts, and you give all of your focus and 100% of your attention to a client at one time. It would drive me mad. I couldn't do it. You'd hate to work in the same office with me. I'd be the person constantly talking to you and distracting you. But how important is it that you can do that? Because if it were me, I'd be like, oh, the washing needs to be done. Oh, the postman's come past. I'll just go out and grab the mail.
Yeah,
Self-discipline is the hardest thing working on your own.
It is, especially at the moment with being stuck at home, not being able to go out and do anything else. It's those things that you can normally break away for, go and get some lunch, go and visit a friend or something, or those kind of things that break up the day a little bit, or go visit a client for a meeting. Those things break up the day a little bit. But at the moment, every meeting's in the living room, all the work's in the living room, every phone call is in the living room. So it's one of those things.
I think the best thing about this, though, will be, I think a lot of people haven't realised how much they can work from home. And this has been a huge breakthrough, for me. So as a celebrant, I used to go and meet with families at their home, and you'd have this beautiful personal experience. So mum or dad may have passed away, and you'll meet with the family and you get to know them, and the dog runs in and you see paintings on the wall and pictures of the grandkids, and you're talking and you're getting all this rapport. And then I go and deliver the service about their loved one who I've heard all about. But really, when I'm standing there, the rapport is with the family who's in front of me talking about their loved one. Now that I'm talking with loved ones, talking with family over Zoom or on the phone, and I'm narrating the eulogy. So I'll write the eulogy and then I'll record it for them so they've got a living eulogy that they can hold on to, which is really important at the moment because the services are so small and families need as much as they can. I'm getting to the service and I feel like I know their loved ones so much better. And I'm delivering it to people who were important to the loved one in a very different way. I don't know if I'm going to go back to the other way. I don't know if I'm going to go back to going out to families' homes because I don't think it compromises the job that I'm doing for them. I actually think it's helped me do my job better, which is a voice for the loved one to everyone, a voice for the family about the loved one to everyone. And it's easier to do it and pay more attention and more focus when you're like this. So I wonder how many other businesses are going to see working from home as a viable and a better option for what they're doing.
Absolutely. It'll be interesting to see what happens moving forward.
Yeah.
So what are some of the things that, you spoke to us earlier about how you got your first customer, but what are some of the things, or client, what are some of the things that you do to make your clients feel special?
Give them all my attention. Always. It's that simple. It's that simple. It's not rocket science. And I know that you are very good at communicating with people in a whole bunch of different mediums that are not my specialty. But for me, it's not rocket science. Be natural, be authentic, love what you do, and love doing it for someone else. If you're doing it for yourself, if you're doing it for money, if you're doing it because you need significance, if you're doing it because you want to look important, you want people to know who you are, for notoriety, to prove something to someone else, there's no longevity in that. And I think, and I'm seeing it a lot in the music industry now, that saying, do what you love every day, it'll never feel like a job. Well, I have a saying at the moment, it's because I do a gig every night from 7 till 8, lockdown entertainment on Facebook. And I say to people, we're doing this for a loving, not a living. And I think this is going to be a real testing time for a lot of people in the music industry who are not being paid, who have possibly not focused on what they do as a professional business. They focused on it as a profession, and they've done as many gigs as they've needed to do to be able to go and make an album, record something, buy an instrument, do all of this. And unfortunately, they don't have a backup plan. Who could have? Who could have for this situation? But when you're in business, as you know, you always have to have a little backup plan. What if I don't have clients for the next 3 months? What if, the bills keep coming in and my computer systems goes down? There's always a bit of a plan. A lot of musicians, as creative as we are, don't think like that. They don't have a business acumen. They've got a creative acumen. And now more than ever, we need to be creative. So it's going to be interesting now to see how many of these people in the music and creative arts industries can do what they're doing for nothing, knowing that they're actually not generating any income at all. Because I think it's going to be like this for 12 to 18 months, I think, until our hospitality partners and the arts precinct gets back on its feet and levels itself out. So what's the plan moving forward for a lot of people?
And so that's probably a good time then to ask you, when you think about some of the marketing that you've done for the business, what's something that you did that you thought, this will be fantastic, this will really go well, and then it just flopped?
That's a good question. I probably don't have any marketing that flopped. I've got whole businesses that flopped. You know, I'm all in, Brett. Oh, look, I don't know. You've done AdWords for me. They worked. Everything that you did for me. If you've got experts doing your work for you, and you're getting good advice, you can only test and measure and take that advice. So I haven't really had anything that's flopped, because I've always gone to the experts like yourself when I needed you to do some stuff for me. It's always worked well. I think I remember doing letterbox drops around the local area, getting 20-odd thousand letterbox pamphlets made up. I did that for a test and measure, but it didn't particularly work, but it was a test and measure. So I think the key to marketing not working, if I can put it like that, is if you don't follow through. If you do anything half-assed, it's not going to work. When I had Stageworks Performance Academy, and I had flyers and a new program, and I had everything ready to go, and then I just lost my mojo. And you drop the ball. If you're not constantly keeping the ball up in the air, you're not giving it a chance to get some momentum, it's going to flop. It wasn't any one thing that I did. It was probably more me. This consistent thing that I talk about all the time, sometimes consistently drops the ball because I just lose my mojo. And that's why it's important for me to keep this right. I'm smarter now. I don't waste my money if I don't think I'm going to put all my force behind it, because I know myself well enough. So if I'm going to come and get AdWords done, I'm going to say, Brett, how much do I need to spend for you to think that you can get me that result? And if you give me a number, then I need to work towards that number. It's no use me saying to you, well, can you do it cheaper? Well, yeah, you can, but you're going to get less of a result. So that I'd rather compromise what I do than compromise the result that I'm going to get out of doing it half-assed. But I have done things half-assed and they don't work.
Yeah. And what's something that, like a free tool, like a service, or something that you might have used to promote the business? What's something that worked well for you? Something that was free?
Well, God, there's just so many. Facebook is an amazing tool. Facebook, for someone like me who loves connecting with people, Facebook is just like, a unicorn. Doing what Rob and I, and for anyone who's listening, so something to talk about was a band of three of us, Rob, Laurie and myself. Rob and I are married. Since we've been in lockdown, we started doing nightly entertainment from 7 till 8 just in our lounge room. And that has had to have been, although we didn't set out for it to be a marketing tool, it was just about us connecting. In terms of being able to stay front of mind with people, which is the most important thing that you need to do when you're in a relations-based service, which anyone in the entertainment industry is, has been one of the smartest things that we ever did. Because it's not only kept us in mind with our audience so that they don't feel we've gone anywhere, it's also kept us in mind with our hospitality partners so they know that we're still out there looking for them. Even, the funeral industry, every night I get to talk about things that are happening, and tonight I'll talk about the interview that you and I did, and we get to say happy birthday to people, and we get to remember people that might have passed away. People love knowing that they're important and they're remembered and, they're significant. So for me, if you can put something out on Facebook that reminds people that they're important, It'll be the cheapest no-brainer to get the biggest result that you can. You have to do it authentically, though. Don't do it. Don't get off. Don't listen to this and go and say you're all special. Everyone's so special. Don't do it. You've really got to mean it. If that's your thing, then do your thing.
So there's only a couple of questions left, but there's some of the, I guess, the fun ones. So this question comes from our previous guest, Natalie, who was a couples counsellor, and her question is, how have you pivoted or handled change in business regarding coronavirus? Which I think, what you've just spoken about, especially with the nightly gigs for free, is a great example. But you obviously feel welcome to elaborate on that.
Well, it's just very simple for anyone who's wanting to know how to do it. Keep busy. Keep moving forward. Doesn't matter if you sit down on your desk and write a new idea out. Doesn't matter if you do a Facebook post. Doesn't matter if you draft an email and send it out to people. It doesn't matter if they give you a call and have a conversation about the what ifs and the what might be's. Google something. I'm going to do a couple of courses. I'm going to do my Cert 4 in leisure and lifestyle, because I want to put out a lockdown entertainment for aged care. So for me, if I've got time and I've got a computer and I've got courses, that's like a blood bank for a vampire, my friend. I am all over that. So just keep moving forward. If the moment you sit down and you think about it, you're looking at the shit on your shoe. Don't do it.
And what's the next big thing for you?
Lockdown entertainment. I'm not sure what it is. I don't know. Will I go back and do sing at weddings anymore? Probably only a few. I'll pick and choose the ones that come in. I don't think I'll be part of a band anymore, because I've done that for 15 years and it's going to be hard to fill the shoes of Laurie and Rob and what we had there. But I think the idea of live streaming music as an alternative to, because we're getting used to it now, as long as it's live and it's connective and people understand that it's coming straight to them. I mean, imagine if Lady Gaga was in her lounge room singing to you, going, "Hey, Brett, and all of those people that are there with you tonight, this song's for you." Would it matter that she was on a massive big screen and not in the room, and that you didn't pay $300 to see her sing?
No, it's better.
I know. So as long as it's for you and it's connected and it's live, I think there's something in that. So I'm just putting together the infrastructure around that at the moment, especially for aged care. I think it's become really apparent that we need to connect with these people in aged care. We can't rely on families to do it. Lifestyle coordinators doing the most incredible job. But I think that as musicians, we can maybe do it a little bit better. So that's exciting for me, thinking about not only the technical side of it, but how this is going to change our industry a little bit. It'll also give our hospitality partners a bit of breathing space. They won't need to pay us $600 to come in there and sing for their guests for 2 hours. Now they can pay us $150 and we'll live stream in there and bring our audience in there to order their pizzas or go and make a booking or whatever. And I think there's a different way for us to do it.
Yeah, absolutely. There's probably an opportunity to partner with a particular food provider or hospitality provider for each gig as well, and sponsorship. I don't know. But what's the best? I think you've shared some great advice today. I've made plenty of notes while you've been talking, because it's always great to be able to refer back to that. But what's your one piece of advice, the best advice you can give our audience?
Be more concerned about how you make people feel than how you feel. Hard conversations need to be had sometimes. People don't have them because they don't want to feel bad, because they're scared to have them, because they don't want to look bad. They don't want the confrontation. Have the conversations, because it's going to be better for everyone in the long run. If someone needs you and they can't afford you, think about what you will earn by making that person feel good, and how many people they're going to tell, and what that will mean in the future in sales. If you do something and it's not perfect, don't get stuck in it and beat yourself up over it, because that's just worrying about how you feel and smelling the shit on your own shoe. Just think about, did that person get what they need? And don't think that you know what they needed. Just, did that person get me giving them all my attention? And did it make them feel good? And if it did, you did what you said you were going to do. And, you know, you won't do it like that again. Just think about how other people feel and don't make it about you.
And the last question I have for you is, what is one question you'd like me to ask the next guest on the next show?
Know who the next guest is?
No, I never reveal who the next guest is.
So
So it can be about anything.
Okay, so the question is, who is someone in their industry that they don't like, and they don't need to mention names.
Mm-hmm.
Who is someone in their industry that they don't like in business, and why? And the reason I ask that question is because you see something in someone else that you don't like, is generally something that's resonating within yourself.
Ooh.
Ooh, so deep, so deep. Yeah.
I like it. I look forward to the answer.
Okay.
So if anyone in our audience would like to get in touch with you to have a chat about what you do or how you might be able to help them, they can email you at sttacelebrant@bigpond.com, or pick up the phone and send you a text or a phone call to 0414 887 883.
Yeah, exactly right. And there, I'm happy to speak to anybody about anything. If people definitely have questions about weddings, which is a bit of there are a lot of questions around weddings at the moment. Happy to have a chat with them. There's no obligation to do anything. Happy to give them my time, have a chat.
Terrific. And I always close the show with a quote that I try to keep relevant to our guest. So today's quote is, "A happy marriage is a long conversation which always seems too short."
Well, that's true, but can I amend that a little bit?
Please.
A happy marriage is a long conversation where the wife is always right.
Of course.
I prefer.
Of course. Of course.
And one day you will know, Brett, one day when you put a ring on it.
Yes, yes. Thank you.
Thank you for being on your podcast today. I appreciate it. Do a great job.
Thank you. Thank you for being here today. For everybody else, you've been listening to the Paperclip podcast presented by BSDA. We have one clear goal: help you to become bigger. If you'd like to learn more about growing your business, head to bsda.com.au. Veronica, thanks very much for joining us today.
Pleasure.
Thanks very much. And until next time, everybody, keep growing.